today. Lots of stuff in the world of football, lots of stuff in the world of basketball. But you know where we got to go first? We got to go baseball. We got to go baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you right now, I believe that the New York Yankees can win it all. I believe the New York Yankees can win it all at the very least. At the very least. If not win it all, meet the Dodgers for the World Series. Now, obviously, that's engaging in a bit of hyperbole to some degree in some people's eyes when you consider the New York Yankees was a wild card team. They finished 91-71 when you consider the fact that they got to go up against arguably the best team in baseball in the Cleveland Indians. They certainly have their work cut out for them tonight. Come out for them in the next series. No doubt about it. And I understand it, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm not dismissing it. I'm not saying, oh, no. The Cleveland Indians are absolutely nothing to worry about. I'm not saying that. What I am saying to you, however, is that the Baby Bombers, a.k.a. the Bronx Bombers, are in full effect with one of the worst performances by a pitcher, one of the worst in Major League Baseball playoff history. The Yankees still overcame. Luis Severino, first inning exit. Couldn't get even 2 outs. Couldn't get 2 outs. Got smacked around, gave up a 3-run shot, was being smacked around, and Joe Girardi had to get him up out of there. So what do the relievers do? What does Green do? What does Robertson do? What does Conley do? What does Chapman do? How about record the final 26 outs of this game? Severino gives up 4 hits, 3 earned runs. Couldn't strike out a damn soul, plus gave up 2 home runs. 2 of them. We got to pay attention to that. But then Green comes in. He only gives up, he pitches 2 innings, strikes out 4, only gives up 1 hit, 1 run. What does Robertson do? 3.1 innings, 3 1/3. Just 3 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, no runs. Conley, what does he do? 2 1/3 innings. Didn't give up anything either. No hits, no runs. And of course, Chapman, 1, 2, 3. Out of there. This is what wins World Series. This is how you win championships, ladies and gentlemen. You win championships when you've got somebody like this, when you got a staff like this. And I'm not talking about starting rotation. Because the irony in all of this is that we're sitting here this morning, and we're talking about the New York Yankees having a better staff, not just starters, a staff. Starters and relievers. A staff better than the New York Mets. Remember all that noise we made about for years? Syndergaard and Harvey and Wheeler and Matz and DeGrom. They ain't talking about them. And it ain't just because they're not in the playoffs. They don't have no bullpen like this. I'm not sure Cleveland has a bullpen like this. I don't think the Red Sox have a bullpen like this. And in the National League, do the Dodgers? Do the Nationals? Do the Diamondbacks or the Rockies? Do the Cubs? I'm not so sure. And that's what I'm looking at right now. Now, obviously, you're down 3-0. I was nervous as hell. Severino looked like straight garbage, looked in over his head, just 23 years of age in his first postseason appearance. We get it. We understand it. It was wrong to expect it was wrong to expect him to be what he was during the regular season. I get that. The flip side to it, however, is that, damn it, is it wrong to expect him to be better than what he was? Severino pitched a third of an inning. That's it. A third of an inning. Gave up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs. His ERA was 81, for Christ's sakes. I mean, horrible. Just a horrible performance on his part. But not only did his staff come through, how about the Baby Bombers? How about Gregorius and that 3-1 shot and the flipping of the bat and running around the bases and having that, being that energizer bunny, having the adrenaline flow through his body, jumping up and elbow bumping everybody. How about him? How about Gardner starting off the game to work the count against Santana? Which our MLB analyst for ESPN, Aaron Boone, so adroitly pointed out. How about that? How about Sanchez with his double? And finishing 2 for 4 in an evening. How about that? How about Gardner's blast? How about Aaron Judge and that 2-run blast that he had? These are people, ladies and gentlemen, that have never played in the postseason. Sanchez, Severino, Judge, they haven't been in the postseason. They're babies at this. And if you're Gregorius, is there a tougher job? Is there a tougher job than to be the successor to Derek Jeter? Does it get any tougher? I don't think it does. But they answered the bell. And they've got me believing. Because guess what? If the Yankees could perform under that kind of pressure, being the better team than the Minnesota Twins, knowing everybody expected them to win, understanding that nobody gave a damn about the Minnesota Twins, and nobody cared to see them outside of Minnesota, knowing all of that, and the Yankees still showing up with all of that pressure and handling their business the way they handled their business. Aren't they the cardiac kids playing with house money right now? Isn't it a situation where they're literally playing with house money, having absolutely positively nothing to worry about? There's no pressure on the Yankees now. What pressure is there? Who expects them to beat the Indians with Kluber and the crew, and as loaded as they are, who beat the Yankees handily in their meetings this year? Who expects the Cleveland Indians to lose this series to the New York Yankees? You're playing with house money. All the expectations are on the shoulders of the Indians. All the pressure's on them. They were in the World Series last year. They were up 3-2. They had the Cubs in the hole, and suddenly they collapsed. Actually, it was 3-1. And they had the Cubs in the hole and lost it. Lost it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are the New York Yankees, how can it get any better than this? It doesn't get any better than this. You can't ask for it any better than this. You're playing with house money. Cleveland Indians are considered the best team in all of baseball, even with the Dodgers having won 2 more games than them during this past season. The bottom line is they didn't go in a 16 for 17 game losing streak like the Dodgers did. I mean, if you look at this staff, you've got Kluber. You've got Carrasco. That's 2 18-game winners. You've got Bauer, who's a 17-game winner. What's there to talk about here? 3 of their 5 starters got ERAs of 3 or lower. I mean, I'm just looking at Cleveland right now. They're loaded. What is there to think about? I'm just looking at it right now, man. This is getting pretty special. Lindor can play. Ramirez can play. Santana's got 23 homers. I mean, and Encarnacion's got 38 homers, 107 RBIs. Everybody's expecting the Indians to make noise and get back to the World Series and avenge what happened to them last year. Everybody's expecting it, damn it. And as a result, doesn't that put all the pressure on them? I think it does. I really, really do. They were up on the Chicago Cubs and lost the damn World Series. I can't ignore that. That's the way I'm looking at it. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way everybody should be looking at it. The Yankees have absolutely positively nothing to lose in all of this. And they got a monster crew that shows up and handles their business, and I love every bit of it. My dream scenario is that the New York Yankees face the Los Angeles Dodgers for the World Series. Who's going to rise to the occasion and get that done? Who's going to come up short? I have my thoughts. What are yours?
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how If you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Always watching the news while I'm doing the radio show, so I got about 6 TVs in here. I see this woman, Mary Lou Danley, tells brother, relax, we shouldn't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. Apparently she's the girlfriend of the guy, Stephen Baddock, that killed 58 people and injured over 500 more in that shooting in Las Vegas. She was in the Philippines at the time. Apparently at the time he transferred about $100,000 to her. Whatever. She got back from the Philippines. She's at the airport. The FBI was waiting for her. She's back in the U.S. right now for questioning. So keep our eyes on that. And hearts go out to all of those folks, loved ones, family members of of those lost. It's sickening. The other thing I want to mention is the crisis in Puerto Rico. What the hurricane caused, the crisis that the hurricane caused there, people without food and water and whatever. My heart goes out to all of them, and let's come together and see if we can do what we can to help those folks as well, along with Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix. My family's from. Tim Duncan, thanks to him and so many others. Mello with the Puerto Rico and the things that he's doing, and just shows the heart and the conscience of folks within the sports world. It's a hell of a lot better than we give them credit for sometimes. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Before I get into some football stuff, before I get into LeVar Ball being called the worst father in the history of sports and beyond, which I thought was excessive, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on in the show. Before I get into any of that, let's go to the phones about what we witnessed last night at Yankee Stadium and what we expect will go forward, will happen moving forward in Major League Baseball, in the American and the National League. Let's go to the phones. Nelson, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Nelson?
Hey, Stephen A. Before I make my sports comment, are your parents from Haiti?
No, my parents are from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Do you think Odell Beckham should really see Aaron Judge as a positive role model as to how to be an athlete in New York City?
No, I don't. No, I don't. But that's not what you called about. We've got better things to discuss than Odell Beckham Jr. today. Get to your point, man. Oh, he didn't have that point. So he lied about what he wanted to call about. Okay, goodbye. Devin, you're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Dev?
Yeah, hey, Stephen A. First of all, man, love your show. I listen every day at work. I'm actually on the clock right now, so I'm going to make it quick for you. I got 2 for you today. I know how much you love your Yankees, and considering, that's the first thing you talked about yesterday, I know you're excited for this coming up series against my Indians. I just remember you writing off my Indians, which I didn't take too kindly. Actually,
first of all, you don't remember that. That's a lie. That's a lie. My preacher. Be quiet. Be quiet. What's the name of the damn show? Don't talk over me. Before the season began, I picked the Cubs to meet the Indians again for the World Series. What are you talking about?
Now, I do remember you saying that the Cubs will reach before the Indians would reach.
I don't care what you remember. I'm telling you it's fact. We've got it on tape. It's my show. I said the Cubs and the Indians would meet again. So how is that writing the Indians off if I had them going back to the World Series?
Well, what do you think about this year? Are we going to get back to the series, Stephen?
Well, I'm hopeful that you won't because I'm a diehard Yankees fan. And I know the Indians are the best team in baseball right now. And they should be favored to win to beat the Yankees. But I'm hopeful that they won't because nothing would please me more than to see the Yankees versus the Dodgers or the Yankees versus the Cubs. But the Indians are a hell of a team. Kluber may be the best pitcher in baseball, at least top 2. And then him and Sale in Boston. And then you got a situation where you look at the Cubs, and they could get in the way of the Dodgers because even though the Cubs came on and strong in the second half, they struggled a lot in the first half because Madden wanted to rest the players because they had such a long season last year and so much on their shoulders. Then we got to think about the Yankees and their youth and the fact that even though they're impressive, the reality is that we can't assume that the New York Yankees are going to be able to beat this Indian squad, who should be every bit as, if not more hungrier than anybody, considering how close they were to winning the World Series last year, and they weren't able to get it done.
Very close, sir, and we were banged up last year. We were missing arguably our best player from returning last year, and we were missing Carrasco, but we're back healthy and added better pieces to challenge.
Carrasco definitely is a big time. That's a big deal. That's a big deal with Carrasco. We'll see what happens with that. And Encarnacion has been balling. There's no doubt about that, but we'll see what happens. And Linders can't be ignored either. But great pitching neutralizes everything in baseball. Everything. And with the Yankees bullpen and having the ability to take guys out after a third of an inning and having your bullpen record 26 outs for you, I mean, damn. You pull off something like that, you can beat anybody. You can beat anybody.
Very true. Looking forward to seeing you guys' bullpen. I know your starters struggle, but your bullpen's one heck of a bullpen, no doubt. I had another one for you.
Hurry up.
Stephen A.
Go ahead.
If we could talk about the Eastern Conference. I know it's lackluster compared to the Western, but with all the moves, with the Kyrie trade, the Bucks being healthy finally, Miami finding their identity without Wade, Washington's backcourt. I mean, how do you see the Eastern Conference playing out this year?
I see it now, please. Stop it. Have a nice day. Because, Devin, here's why. There's no suspense there. We all know Cleveland's coming out of the East. How do you see the East falling out? First of all, Boston lost Isaiah and Crowder. And Avery Bradley, huge loss, and a big pickup for Detroit because Avery Bradley can play some defense, man, and he's not a bad player offensively either. So then you got that going on. Washington and Toronto are going to be playoff teams, but either will be home. They'll be home at the latest by the semifinals, at the latest. Okay, both of them. So now you got a situation where if you're Boston, you got Gordon Hayward, you got Kyrie, and Al Horford, but what else do you have? Marcus Smart is good. He ain't Avery Bradley, not to me. Not to me. Jaylen Brown, I like him a lot. I think he's going to make some noise. But I just don't know where their depth comes from. That's my issue with Boston. I think they're good, but I think they fall to Cleveland in 6, if not 5. That's the only suspense here for the Eastern Conference. Nothing else. Tom. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Tom, go ahead, buddy. What's up?
Hey, I had a quick question. I love your show. Please don't roast me on the radio if my question's not good.
Well, I am going to roast you if your question's not good, but go ahead.
My question is, you look at Aaron Judge, you look at Gary Sanchez, Aaron Hicks, you look at Tyler Austin, you look at all of them. Do you see this team being like a dynasty team for the next, 6 years?
Excuse me?
Like they can win. You think they can win the World Series 5 out of the next 7 with all these young rookies in?
Come on, man. You know what? You know why questions like that bother me? How many games in a regular season?
162.
162 games. Okay? Even when you're the best team, do you usually win in baseball?
Yes.
No. I've seen a pitcher or two shut down a roster. You and I both know it. And it may not have been the best team, but they had the pitching. This is baseball, man. You can't sit up there and predict that somebody's going to win 4 or 5 World Series over the next 7 years. Not only that, we ain't even taking into account money. Because are you going to want to pay all those guys? Then think about what we wanted to say about the Mets. You had DeGrom and Syndergaard and Wheeler and Matz and all of these boys. What happened to them? Fell off the wagon. 162 games with barely a day off for 6 months. That's a hard thing to sustain. So I can go a year and maybe the next year. What were we saying about the Cubs last year? Oh man, they could win. They could win for years and years to come. Now they're back in the postseason. They could potentially repeat. Is anybody expecting them to? No, because we're already talking about the Indians being better. We're already talking about the Dodgers being better. So let's take it one at a time. Let's take it one at a time. Let's see what Judge and Sanchez and these boys do. We saw Severino. Yeah, it was nice to see Judge and Sanchez do what they do along with Gardner and Gregorius and the rest of the crew. But what happened to Severino, Tom? He got smacked around because he's 23 and he's young and he was in a bright lights. What are these boys going to do against Kluber? What are these boys going to do against the rest of Cleveland staff when crunch time arrives? We don't know. Kluber and Carrasco and Bauer and Tomlin and Salazar and those boys. What they going to do, Tom? Don't we have to wait and see? Because they're young. We don't know.
Steven.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Randy in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Randy.
Listen, I don't appreciate you talking about the Mets. We're already in the grave. Leave us alone, man.
You guys are the ones that hype
my bad,
You guys are the
Randy,
ones
my bad. My apologies. I'm sorry, Randy. What's the name of the show? There we go. You understand? When Randy in Queens has his own radio show, you can tell yourself what to do. On this show, I do what I do. Now go ahead and make your point.
Listen, the Mets are done. You shouldn't mention them no more.
Well,
okay,
I am if I want to. Do you have a Yankees point to make?
Stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
Good. Have a nice day. Such an intelligent call. I mean, you waited all of that time to tell me that. Randy, I'm so touched by your words. It's just so touching. So eloquent, so intuitive, so intellectual. I mean, I really learned something from you. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Wow. All that time you held just to say that. Congratulations.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
You know, listen, I got to admit, I got to complain for a second. I expect better from my callers. I mean, damn it, what's the name of it? This is Stephen A. Smith Show. I got my opinions and everything else, but I expect y'all to have yours. I expect you to make sense. And I don't expect you to be calling up here and wasting your time waiting to get on the air with me, only to sound like a damn buffoon once you get through the lines. So I'm going to challenge the callers. Look, I work. I got multiple jobs. But I bring it, and I expect my callers to bring it too, because y'all are an extension of me. This ain't just my show. Yes, it's my name on it. I'm the ringleader, but it's about us. So to you callers out there, because my listeners are sensational and they are who they are, but the people who actually call in, step your game up. Or I'm a hang up. Don't make me get Joe Madison on y'all. He takes that to another level. And then, I mean, it's so bad with him, they got a cup or whatever it is where you put $1 into the jar every time he cusses. This is like a cash register. Maybe I need to do something like that. Jack, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hello, Stephen.
What's up?
I got a question for you. Throughout this season, Aaron Judge, he's been very consistent, but sometimes he'll get like a streak where he doesn't really hit that much. I want to know how you feel about him, actually getting a nice stride through the playoffs and continue on his momentum from last night's game.
Well, listen, in terms of do I believe will it continue?
Like, how do you think the rest of the playoffs will play out for him?
Well, listen, I don't know. This is the thing. I will tell you this. Here's what I will tell you. When I think about Aaron Judge, right? What I'm most impressed by was his first playoff game, his first postseason game. And he was 2 for 4 with a home run, with a 2-run shot. Now, the biggest shot was Gregorius, tying that game up, because that changed everything. After being in the 3-0 hole and coming out right in the same inning and smacking that 3-1 blast the way that he did, I just loved it. And Santana's slider wasn't there all night, as Aaron Boone pointed out, but Severino didn't have anything working. Looked completely in over his head. Look, it's one thing to do this against the Minnesota Twins, Jack. What you gonna do against Kluber and Carrasco and Tomlin and the Indians, man? That's a different beast. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I hear you.
That's my concern. That's my concern. That's what I'm worried about as we speak. So we'll see what happens. I appreciate the call. Kyle, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Kyle? How are you?
Hey, what's up, Stephen? How you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
First, I just wanted to say I love all your rants about New York. I'm out here in school in the Midwest, and I always preach out here, so thank you for doing it. I was just wondering, with the Yankees having such a good bullpen, and I think that's the one superior thing that we have over the Indians.
Okay.
How many runs do you think that we got to put up, by the 6th inning to ensure that we're gonna go through and
you know what?
Indians?
To me, that's the wrong question. How many runs do you have to hold Cleveland to? That's the question. It's not about how many runs you got to put up. It's about how many runs you got to hold them to. Because, you see, what I'm saying to you is this. How the Yankees exploded for those 7 runs, you get in a hole like that against Cleveland, you're in a world of trouble. You're in a world of trouble. You got to limit their offense more than generate more of your own. That's what I believe about the Yankees against Cleveland, because I don't believe that Cleveland is going to struggle the way Santana did yesterday. I don't believe it.
You don't think about how hot our bats are doing right now, though?
I don't think you're going to be able to do that against Cleveland. No. I think I could see the Yankees scoring 4 or 5 runs, but I don't see the Yankees scoring 8. Not consistently. Not against that staff. I don't see it. Not against Francona managing against them. I don't see it. I don't. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see that.
Them to 6?
Excuse me?
You don't see us holding them to like 6 runs per game, like less than that.
I don't know. How can you make that claim? Who's going to do it? Tanaka?
He's been cooking. Well, Tanaka had a great outing that last showing.
Okay.
I also think, and then our bullpen is so good.
No, the bullpen. The Yankees. Listen, we've been talking the last half hour about the Yankees bullpen. We get all of that. What I'm saying to you is this. It's not about how many runs the Yankees score. It's about how many runs you can hold the Indians down to. That's my concern. My concern is that Encarnacion and the crew, they're going to find a way to put up numbers.
Feel that?
And that's with him and Lindo and those boys, I think they'll find a way. But I got to go, Kyle. I appreciate the call. 866-729-ESPN. Back with more of your calls in a minute. We'll continue talking about this, whether or not the Yankees going to meet the Dodgers in the World Series. We'll continue to talk about that. We got to get into LeVar Ball being called the worst daddy in the history of sports by USA Today. We'll talk about that as well. Plus, we'll get into some NFL items I need to discuss, and along with an NBA item that I cannot avoid any longer. It is necessary to talk about this. I'll allude to I'll bring up what I'm talking about in the minutes to come. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Give Stephen A. piece of your mind.
He is sorry.
Call him weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
I mean, just trash.
At 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
I'll get into one of the NBA stories that I want to talk about in a little bit. But I wanted to touch on this story that was in today's USA Today, written by a writer that we should all respect, who does good work for USA Today. Her name, I don't know if she's a Miss or Mrs., but it's Nancy Amore. The title of the article reads, "It's official, Ball is worst sports parent." Now, writers don't write the headlines, so let's not blame her for that. But if you read a column, let me just read and skim through it a little bit. Until now, Ball has been a caricature with his outlandish claims and delusional view of his and his son's talents, the basketball equivalent of a Kardashian. With his announcement Monday that he is pulling youngest son LaMelo out of high school so he can make him, quote, the best basketball player ever, end quote, Ball crossed into troubling territory. These are children he's raising, not commodities, and the ramifications are huge when a parent forgets there's a difference. She brings up comparing him to Marv Marinovich, the father of Todd Marinovich, who was an NFL bust due to drug problems and what have you, and talked about how Marinovich's regimented training program began when his son was still an infant, and he brought in specialists to hone Todd's skills. Everything Todd ate was monitored, no refined sugars, nitrates, food colorings, or fast food, and there were no days off. This is who she's comparing LeVar Ball to. She goes on to say, whether he and his son recognize it, pulling him out of school robs LaMelo of an important piece of his adolescence. LaMelo told ESPN that leaving school won't matter because he'll see his buddies when they come to his house to train. But you don't spend your life surrounded by your buddies. And school is when you start learning how to navigate relationships with those who aren't. And while it's true that plenty of elite athletes are homeschooled, the, quote, everybody else is doing it, end quote, argument doesn't mean it's always right, especially not with the reasons Ball is giving. She ends it by saying, so instead, Ball is going to teach LaMelo that he doesn't have to listen to coaches, that rules are for suckers, that quitting is an acceptable solution to a challenge or adversity, that not being allowed to take 50 shots a game could qualify as adversity is a whole issue in and of itself. That because basketball is the only measure of LaMelo and his brother's worth, The Ball kids are talented, no question, and their father has made them a nationwide brand. But there's more to life than basketball, and there's more to them than basketball. Staying at his high school isn't going to diminish LaMelo's talent as a player. The same can't be said for his development as a person. Ladies and gentlemen, I vehemently disagree with Miss Nancy Nancy Armour. First of all, I don't think that anything that LaVar Ball has done warrants comparisons to the Marinovich family. His sons have been in elementary school, junior high school, and high school. Lonzo completed high school. His son is being pulled out of high school to be homeschooled at age 16. He has friends. He's learned some sociable skills. And there's plenty of people who have been home trained. That's number one. Number two, Bryce Harper was home trained. Nobody ever wrote anything about him. Number three, whether it's golf or tennis, you have people who are home trained and go through. We ain't talking about them. And number four, and I'm quite sure, and I'm not accusing her of any malice intent or anything like that. She's just expressing her opinion, and I agree with my man Will Kane when he makes that point about that. But here's the flip side to it. As journalists, we all have an obligation to put things in its proper context and be sensitive to the tenor of things. We all know the narratives that have been put out there about black fathers. We all know what's been perpetuated and disseminated to the masses. We all know, particularly if you're black, what stigmas and stereotypes we have to fight off as fathers. And you think nothing of that when you're writing an article that's headlined, Ball is the worst sports parent? LaVar Ball is obnoxious. LaVar Ball, I don't like the fact that he pulls some of the teams off the court, that he seems to take his ball and runs home when he doesn't get his way. I don't like the fact that he's so loquacious with his comments all the time, and I'm fearful that he's going to be that way towards Luke Walton, Magic Johnson, and the Lakers if things don't go to his son's way, meaning Lonzo Ball, who was the number 2 overall pick in this past NBA draft. LaVar Ball knows this. He knows I feel this way because I've told him to his face. But I would never accuse him of not being a good man, of not taking his children's well-being into consideration. And I certainly wouldn't call him the worst father in the world, in sports or any other genre. Let me tell y'all something about LaVar Ball right now. There are an abundance of human beings in this world that wish they had a father just like him. He ain't perfect. He's hard-headed as hell. He's obnoxious. But he's also smart, fun-loving, and pretty damn decent at his core, despite his mistakes from time to time. This article was off base. I'll leave it at that. Hour number 2 up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.